Hello everybody, welcome to Walking with J.Beau, an almost daily walking vlog. Hope everybody's having an absolutely beautiful week so far. It's 79 degrees here in Lewiston, Maine. September 18th. As I square away my walking app while we walk. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of the video intro today that makes sense. Very important time in history we're going through right now, because we're at a turning point and the direction we go is going to be entirely up to us. I have come to the realization that the country we grew up in, especially us older folk, no longer exists. And that is not something that is unprecedented in our history. This has happened throughout our history every 50 years or so. So post World War II, we had kind of an industrial resurgence. Detroit was the richest city in the world. We produced virtually all of the world's automobiles. We were an absolute economic powerhouse. We spent a lot of that money on the Cold War. Possibility of nuclear holocaust, which still exists today, as evidenced by the EB-4 presidential doomsday plane, they call it, accompanying President Trump to the UK. So it's a gentle reminder that we still have these threats and possibilities. And seeing the doomsday plane and the nuclear football traveling around with the president today is kind of eye-opening, given what's been going on in Ukraine with Russia. The doomsday plane has EMP protection. It can actually survive a nuclear blast. It's heavily fortified with top secret, classified equipment and capabilities. It can orchestrate the world's communications to keep our government going in an emergency. It can broadcast directly to everybody at their homes. It's quite a thing if you research it. I'm not going to go into all the detail about everything it can do. But this is the day we're living in. Look at this old boat, this old Chrysler. Wow. So anyway, I'm kind of in one of those moods today, being reflective about where we're going, where we're headed, what we need to do. When, as I've stated at the beginning of this video, all of our institutions are corrupted one way or the other, and we can't get the information we need or factual information. Nobody even agrees on vaccines anymore. Pandemic protocols, how our government works, operates, how we voted to elect people to fix that. They're trying to fix it. And everything that they're doing gets sued, lawsuits, becomes political. I saw a testimony a little while ago with a woman that works at the CDC was fired by Kennedy for being difficult to work with, set in her ways, and she is staunchly opposed to the Trump administration and Kennedy. The administrative branch constitutionally has direct control over who can work for the president to further the president's policies or not. That is clearly defined, yet there she is preventing that. She even retained legal counsel. She's going to sue the government to have her job, which the government has every right to fire her legally, which is what the ruling is going to be on that. And this is all a Trump administration defamation campaign orchestrated by the left. She didn't file a suit until Democrats contacted her saying she should sue. How she's paying for that, I don't know. But I'm sure that has something to do with her decision to file a lawsuit for something she baselessly has no ability to sue, because she's an employee of the administrative branch and he can fire anybody he wants with literally no reason or no cause. He can just simply say, I don't like this person, I don't like the job they're doing, she's not going along with what the people voted for, so she's gone. And that's exactly what happened. So she's not happy. She lost her cushy bureaucratic job, and listening to her testify today, I can see why she was fired. She has misinformation about vaccine protocols, data, facts. It's like she's been on Blue Sky and she has all of her information from that, which is probably the case, as evidenced by Jimmy Kimmel saying that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a MAGA person. Complete, utterly false, made up misinformation. And they always do the same thing. If they say the same thing over and over and over again, that's what the core base of liberal voters believe. The other thing I noticed today, as we see some Halloween decor across the street, is that in England, they didn't have a large turnout protesting Donald Trump. They had a lot of people there that showed up to support Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. The majority of people that showed up were anti-Trumpers, but even that crowd wasn't that big. So what I noticed in the crowd was that the majority of these people protesting Donald Trump were white, liberal females in Britain. That seems to be a worldwide phenomenon where most of these crazy far-left ideologies are being promoted by white liberal females, and the weakened males standing behind them, who are subservient, and they cannot be men anymore because they get accused of being toxic masculinity. So these are all tools instituted by neo-Marxists to weaken us and to do what my intro video said, to keep us divided. So we need to recognize that by pointing out how wrong it is, which is not being divisive. I'm not going to comment on them as people, but use your own judgment on that. So somebody is planting yard sale signs. I get around the corner here, out of the traffic. And so basically we have a good old-fashioned mess on our hands. And like I said, about every 50 years we have a big cultural swing. In the 60s, the 50s through the mid-60s, up until the start of the Vietnam War, we had a communist Red Scare in this country, where the communists, which were homegrown people on the left, which in my opinion, the people on the left today are worse than what the communist Red Scare was. And I find it difficult now, knowing what I know. Previously to 2020, McCarthyism and all that, I thought it was crazy. I did not support that. I think the Republicans went nuts, out of hand. Now this is interesting. Hey, how you doing?
Good, man.
That guy was not normal. I don't know if you caught that. That looked like another 19 to 20-year-old having mental issues, which seems to be an epidemic here. We also had heavy metal t-shirts. At least that's what I assumed it was. That seems to be a common thread among these people that have done mass shootings, which is unfortunate because I love heavy metal. It's not the music. They're hanging out somewhere online, and they have nihilistic tendencies. So, very unusual. So anyway, we had the Red Scare in the 50s and 60s. People worried about nuclear annihilation and being infiltrated by Russia. Today it's China. And also domestic far-left extremism. And we do have some far-right extremism in this country, but thus far they have not been violent. They just want the left to stop doing what they're doing. So, wow, look at this. What would cause this? We have walked by here before, and that is a good 3-4 inches where that whole section of pavement has lifted, or this one has sunk. Looks like it might have sunk. Very strange. I get a bump sign there. They did some work over here. Probably had a water main break. That's what I'm guessing. Looking at that. They obviously repaired it. So anyway, we had the Vietnam War after the Kennedy assassination. And another traumatic moment. Then in 1968, we had MLK get assassinated. Malcolm X. There's a lot of upheaval in this country in the 60s. Similar to what's going on now, but now we're throwing in social media and technology. Everybody has this information on their phones, right in their pockets. That old boat. So the problem is a lot worse today than before. Cool little pickup. So how do we fix it? Well, we're going to have to fix it on the same tools that caused it. What caused it is division and not talking, so we're going to have to start talking. Technology has contributed to it, so we're going to have to use technology to come out of it. You're going to have to respect people's opinions. As we see some more decor. Trick or treat. We don't even trick or treat right anymore. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. A lot of our norms and traditions have been thrown away. Nowadays, we have people trick or treating. They knock on the door, trick or treat, and that's like a password to get free candy. In the old days, trick or treat meant you'd give somebody a treat if you don't want a trick played on you. If you didn't give people a treat, you ran the risk of getting your tree toilet papered, TP'd, or your bushes, or somebody ringing the doorbell with a bag of dog poop in it, lighting it on fire, which I do not recommend. Now kids just knock on the door expecting to get something for free. And if they don't get it, they get upset. So there's been a fundamental breakdown of all across social life, really. Generac. They got a Generac. So I don't know what to do to fix it. You get a bunch of older people like us who know how things used to be with regard to at least talking. Back in the day, a Democrat would tell you that censorship is horrible, and I would sacrifice my life to protect your free speech, Mr. Republican, and vice versa. Now, you will never hear anything like that, because nobody feels like that now. Much as I disagree with AOC and Ilhan Omar, I don't want them to stop talking. I don't want to silence them. I want people to vote them out of office democratically, because I believe their rhetoric is poisonous and divides us. So there's a fine line between wanting to silence somebody and wishing they weren't in office so they wouldn't be spewing that hate. So a lot of people, like this shooter in Utah, took it upon themselves to silence Charlie Kirk, who did not hold a political office. And that was a horrible thing to do. And from what I gather so far, by what's been released, that it was to silence Charlie Kirk because he was protecting a marginalized community that he was having relations with. Because he was in a bubble online on social media where everybody says that killing people like Charlie Kirk or President Trump is doing a favor to humanity, because if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you do it? So they have dehumanized the right. When you dehumanize your enemy, you don't care if they die or not. I'm happy to say that we have not dehumanized the left. We're actually angry because they are fellow Americans poisoning our society with craziness. And it's okay for me to say that. We need to fix that. Nobody is advocating for AOC to be censored, silenced, removed from society. We're just not made like that. So there's a difference, because the only thing I have seen is the media dehumanizing Republicans as racist bigots. They tried to do the anti-Semite trope. And until a leftist took out the CEO of an insurance company, and they glorified that violence as well. Nobody did anything. The media made a story out of it. They didn't come out and say that this is horrible, it shouldn't be like this. You people on the left that are on our side, we should not be condoning this or promoting violence. First Trump assassination attempt, they had their wits about him for not even 2 weeks. AOC was the first one to come out and call Trump a dictator again, a fascist. Then there was a second assassination attempt, and they toned it down for about a week and went back at it again. And given this being about a week and a half, a week since Charlie Kirk's assassination, week and a half, they're about ready to go at it again. So nobody has learned any lessons, and that's why Jimmy Kimmel got fired. The people that run the networks realize they contributed to the problem, and they are doing something about it, and they should be commended. So we need more of that. And if we see it on the right, we need them to do that too. If we see anybody on Fox News, for example, glorifying something that happened to the left with regard to something violent, or promoting theories, conspiracy theories about the right being this, that, or the other thing. I mean, the left, in a way that is non-conducive with free speech being constructive in a work environment. And somebody comes on Fox News saying something bad should happen to this Democrat because they said this about Charlie Kirk. They should be disciplined for that. And we need to start fixing this. Like now. Everybody. Instead of going on TV trying to both sides it. This is not a both sides issue. Yes, there are some people on the right that take things too far, but it has not resulted in violence and death. 90%, at least my own opinion, is that 90% of the violence, maybe 85%, comes from the left. And they celebrate it. So it ensures more violence happens. a lot of the Charlie Kirk celebratory stuff was finally somebody that can actually aim at something and hit it, referencing President Trump almost being assassinated by millimeters, quarter inch, whatever you want to call it, a bullet whizzing by his ear and through his ear, causing him to bleed, is about as close as you can get to being assassinated by a bullet. So, close as you can get without actually being assassinated by a bullet. The good news is the gravity of what has happened outside of the liberal bubble that was previously hoping and wishing it would happen has been shocked by the rest of the world that is normal, and it has awakened a lot of people to realize how dangerous the left is. And that includes many independent or Democrat voters who now have seen it for themselves. It didn't come from Donald Trump's mouth saying it. They actually showed who they are. And then they see how they're flipping it around. And it's still shocking to me that 49% of Democrats believe a Republican shot Charlie Kirk a week and a half after it happened. So, that obviously is going to change, just because that's just the fact of it. And having people like Bill Maher tell the truth, and having a Republican a Democrat sitting in front of him that hates Trump and wanted it to be a Republican that did it so bad, he had to sit there and listen to Bill Maher tell him that that's not what happened. It was somebody who was radicalized, that was 22 years old, that was living with a furry transgender person, and this is a problem for the Democrats. So, established facts, he was a leftist. And there's no arguing that at all. So when you see somebody trying to make that into something else, that is somebody you should not listen to, despite their free speech right to say it. Just like if you're watching this walk and you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have to watch it. But anyway, I'm going to turn the camera around because I haven't done that yet. Got into talking, and it's either a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't like to have the camera on me too much or have it off too much. I found most people are happier when you get a little of both periodically. So I'm going to turn this around. Say hi to everybody. Hi everybody. I'm going to keep an eye on traffic up ahead. I'm going to try to forget the camera's there and walk just like I would normally be walking. We have a flattened porcupine in the road. See that? The porcupine didn't make it. Poor thing. So those are my thoughts on those things. I really like the commentary that I got on the last video. Thank you very much. Username, HERF, blah blah blah, a whole bunch of stuff after it. You know who you are. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go up here and avoid a car. This is not one of my safest routes I walk. I do not come this way in the winter time at all. I have to watch traffic up ahead quite a bit. I'm which I'm doing. So, you know, we're at a point in history right now where we're at one of those turning points. Just like Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. Which, by the way, Turning Point USA is recruiting. Look them up online. To start a chapter where you live. They also have Turning Point for Gen Z, for the young folks. They have a Turning Point for men. They have a Turning Point for women. So the men one would include older folk. You want to join up with that? Go out and talk with people. Spread the message of voting for Republicans, because leftists are dangerous. You know, it's very important to separate Democrats from leftists, because the leftists took over the Democratic Party. A lot of these older Democrats still in the party don't understand that their party has changed. Democrats have been very careful to try to protect that. So, I gotta scoot through this part, because my only option is to jump about 15 feet down on some rocks over the guardrail. The car forces me off the road. So now I'm safe. So anyway, we can make a change. I'm going to do my little part by making these videos. And during 2020, I was very politically active. I joined a lot of protests in Augusta that Republicans put on. We may have to get to that point again for some reason. Right now, we're not there yet. But there will probably be a couple of rallies around the Capitol with Republicans before the election. I'm sure. Now we're starting to crunch in some leaves. Quite a steep hill. Degrees today. It's not humid. It's just nice. I wish it was like this all summer. Cut across the street here. Ooh. Had my heart rate up. And if you're still with me at this point on this walk, it's because you care. You love the country. So how I've always been is, you know, like one time at a protest, we had some Democrats screaming at us, and one of them had a medical event. I don't know what it was, but we went and helped them. Gave them some water, got some police officer to get some medical help for them. We didn't stand there laugh, pointing our fingers, saying they deserve what just happened. And that's the way we need to be. So, disagree, shout at a fellow American, but don't wish them harm, and don't laugh when they experience something bad. It's civil discourse is, if it's civil, it's okay, like non-violent. And not belittling people. That's the thing that really stood out to me with Charlie Kirk, who, like I said, I didn't watch him all the time religiously, but I watched him sometimes. He'd never embarrass who he was debating. You know, they had these young people on a campus, and there's a lot of people standing behind them, and they would start spewing the talking points they heard in the bubble on Blue Sky or something, and Charlie Kirk would present them with facts. They would double down on their misinformation, and he said, no, that's a fact. Sometimes you would see these guys try to Google what the truth is while he's talking to Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk often discouraged that, because you're supposed to know what you're talking about when you have a debate. You can't go find the answers in the middle of your conversation. Hold on a second, I'll get back to you in a minute, because I don't agree with what you said. I got to see if it's true, because that's what people do on social media. You say something, they got to go Google something, then they'll copy and paste something thinking they got this big one up on you, and they actually Google something that didn't really have anything to do with what you were talking about, but they perceived it to be that way. Perfect example, if I say something online like the #1 killer of kids, the common misconception is the biggest deaths from firearms is children. Leading #1 cause of death in children is firearms. That's the misinformation that the media spewed. Now, factually it's correct, but there's missing context. And that's what a lot of these young people don't have, is that missing context, because they listened to propaganda. The leading cause of death for children with regards to firearms, the leading cause of death to children is firearms. But, here's the but. Most of those deaths are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds in inner city gangs who are shooting each other in parking lots. So they bent that to make it sound like the leading cause of death in children is firearms, when it's actually because of gangs in inner cities who are mostly teenagers shooting at each other. They do that to try to make it sound like school shootings are the leading cause of death and we need to ban assault rifles. Now, I've mentioned this many times on my walks. They always go after the AR-15. There's a reason for that. The AR-15 is not the only semi-automatic rifle you can buy. That's the one they zero in on, because it is the most common rifle sold in America. It's the most likely the one people are familiar with. It's also, coincidentally, the one that makes the most money for the gun industry, which finances the gun lobby. Now, the gun lobby financially incentivizes politicians, namely Republicans, by funding their campaigns. So that's why Democrats want to ban guns. It's not to save lives. They want to ban assault rifles so it defunds Republicans. Because the simple fact is, AR-15s are not yet the most common weapon used in mass shootings. It's a shotgun and a handgun. That's just a simple fact. So that's the problem with propaganda. You tell what I just said to a Democrat, they're going to interrupt you while you're talking, call you a liar. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have a debate about the facts. You're wrong. Man, give you the finger and they take off. Fascist. So that's the problem we have right now. The truth doesn't matter at the moment. What matters is what people have been told is the truth. And that is very scary. Because you have a lot of people being told untruths as being true. President Trump never said find people on both sides. That was a quote taken out of context. It's really scary, the power of the media when they do that. And they made a decision to do that. So most of these problems we have today, I blame the media and social media. So that's, you know, and that's just a fact. You know, anybody can see that. The media is dishonest. So, anyways, my friends, we're walking, getting exercise on a 79-degree day. It's beautiful. And up ahead here, I'll turn the camera around. This street right here, for some reason, behind me, looks like streets you would see in movies filmed in Oregon and Washington. To me, that's what it reminds me of. Or Northern California. Now I've gone 2.5 miles. Got a good sweat going. My brow is wet. I got sweat dripping down my arms. Watch traffic. Truck here. Saw me at the last minute. I'm just really amazed sometimes at what people are not looking for when they're driving. They're not looking up ahead. Most people do, but sometimes you see those ones that, oh, somebody's there, you know, they jerk the wheel. So I got to do the watching for them. After all, it involves whether or not I get hit, so most of that responsibility should be mine. So, freaking dogs everywhere. Alright, well, I'm going to turn the camera around now. And a good workout today. Oh. Alright, I gotta meander on down to the intersection. Then I gotta cross over. I gotta cross over. try to rock and roll the place. I listened to a Johnny Winter record last night called Early Times. It's a record that came out in 1970, and it was all 50s or 60s style music with Johnny Winter on guitar. It was pretty interesting. I've had that album for a while, listened to it a couple times, but it's been a few years since I listened to it. It's interesting. So we're coming up on mile number 3 shortly. I'm gonna have to ski-daddle across the street when I got a break in the traffic. I watched President Trump's visit in the UK, having dinner with the King. First president in US history to sit down at a big, long, special table and have a beautiful meal with a giant, long table with the King of England, King Charles, Prince William, Prince William, I have to say, is a fine gentleman. He's got his head on straight. And the reason why the monarchy had President Trump for that special dinner that they have never done before for a president is because Trump is a world-class force to be dealt with. And he ended up leaving the UK with a $200 billion business deal for the United States. Britain is having some economic troubles right now because they pay for everything with tax money. Revenue is down because they brought in too many migrants who are absorbing a lot of the tax dollars. And the people are getting very angry, and Britain needs to do something economically very soon. They have an election coming up. Both of the major parties there, which would be the equivalent of the Republican and Democrat parties, are behind in the polls to the Independent Reform Party, who are very conservative. They have made it clear this immigration problem, and it is a problem, has to end, and we need to deport. So now we're going to walk up this way. No, we're not starting a new walk. A lot of times I start my walk here, but I am veering off this way. So we have a lot of good things happening because of President Trump. Very happy to see it. Things are going well. We need to enjoy. I had fun watching President Trump's planes today. So it's very interesting. As you can see, it's a beautiful day. Our president is doing well. Prices of stuff is starting to come down. Some things more than others, but it's getting there. Now we're going to pass a car up ahead that has been in this same spot for almost a month. It hasn't moved, and it's It's been there for every one of my walks. Usually in the past, we've walked past here. There was a really tall black dude with an accent from not around here. Would be out here quite often. And he has not been. So I don't know if he's been picked up by ICE. Don't know if he's in jail. I don't know if he just took off, if he died. I have no idea what happened to him. Figure if he moved to another state, he'd take his car with him. Maybe he's on a 1-month vacation. But you can see the dirt under the car. Now, that car has not moved. It's been there for a long time. See what happens the next time I walk by it. If it's still there or not. Lewiston here does not have an ordinance where if you leave a vehicle parked and unattended for a long period of time, the city will tow it. Some cities in the country do that, but we don't. It'll stay there until we get a snowstorm and they have to plow around it. Then it will get towed. So now we're going to go up this way, finish the walk. We've got 3 miles in, 2 left to go. Definitely a strange time we're living in right now. And we're having a cultural civil war. But when you start getting violent, that Charlie Kirk assassination could easily morph into terrorist acts, vengeance. You know, stuff I've talked about on this walk. I hope to God we avoid, like cafe bombings. You know, real domestic terror. Not people waving Trump flags on January 6th, wrestling with the police. And that was infiltrated by a lot of leftist agitators, and things got out of hand. But that's what they do. So I don't want to see cafe bombings. I want to see retaliation. And I don't want to see the left doing any more violence. And the people on the right are very, very capable of committing violence. You know, many of us have the technology. Let's just put it that way. The skills and the love for our country. If that's all the last resort is, that they would go ahead and do that. And I hope to God we never see it. So, try to do our best to have civility remain in society. Stay peaceful. And besides, I'm too old for this crap. I want peace and quiet. Get off my lawn. So, but I know we will survive as a nation. Regardless, just another one of those 50-year turns that we take. I thought it was very comical to watch Prime Minister Keir, what's his name? Prime Minister of Britain, stand up and talk about, because he was asked about J.D. Vance's comments about free speech and Britain locking up citizens for Facebook posts, and their prime minister was making commentary about how both the United States and Britain foundations are built on liberty and free speech, and he just skirted the question. And I know why he did that, because the public is getting pissed at the government for censoring and not allowing people to speak about the very clear present problem of immigration being out of control, and it is damaging their neighborhoods, society, civility, and it's boiling over. Both of the major parties that caused it, and the Conservative Party in Britain is not like the Republican Party here. Both of them tried to have immigration, but come up with different solutions. So clearly they have been influenced by the globalist elites with the money, whoever that would be, according to my intro, to have mass immigration. It's part of their plan to break down society and society's norms, watering down culture, and erasing borders. It's a very evil plan that was started in the 80s, actually. Jeez, the freaking guy driving was brain dead. You could tell looking at him. Like, if I don't get off the side of the road, that guy's gonna hit me. He just gave me that vibe. I think I was right. Should be illegal to drive in a coma. Just saying. We got a Kennedy sign. It's a Kennedy voter over here. Hope he's happy. I'm happy with the job Kennedy's doing. So let's get up off the road here. I hear tires from a truck. Yep. It's a big truck. Important to use your ears when you're walking. We'll walk down this way, see if these guys have their chickens out today. Let's see if we see some chickens. I don't see them. I think they got a coop. Yeah, they got a coop back there. Either that or they ate them. I don't know if they're eating chickens or not. We just hit 3.5 miles. One hour of 3 minutes. 1 hour and 3 minutes of walking. Did 3.5 miles. That's about 17 minutes or so per mile. Averaged out, I think. My first mile is always the slowest. My first mile is always about 19 or 20 minutes. And a lot of that has to do with, I start my app as I'm on my way out of the house, lock the door, you know, it takes that extra few seconds. Walk out and start walking. It takes a minute to get going. So hopefully this firing of Jimmy Kimmel sends a message to the entertainment world that anybody can lose their job for this. And you know, they can say what they want, but even back in the day, if you had Johnny Carson say something like that, there would have been a national uproar. They didn't do that. They did comedy. They told jokes. And when they would make a joke about Ronald Reagan, it was a funny joke. It wasn't insulting or dehumanizing. Now what I'm doing is I broke the loop on this tie for a package. Because those kind of things, an animal gets their head caught in there in that loop, they could end up strangling themselves. So I just break the loop, so now it's not a loop anymore. I'm not going to do anything like crazy, like pick it up, but we'll make it safe. Ooh, I got sweat dripping out from under my hat, running down my arms. My back is soaked. So I'm getting a good cardio workout, which is what I want. The first half mile that you walk, your heart beats a little hard. But after that half mile, it smooths out to a nice calm. And you shouldn't feel your heart at all when walking, which I don't. The first half mile, you got to warm it up and get it going, because it's a muscle. And it's just like when you start walking, your leg muscles are a little stiff. You got to get it going. But my breathing is calm and steady. My heart is at a nice even rate. I have watched some walking videos online with a couple of these older guys I've seen, younger than me. And they're overweight and they're walking and they're literally like, now up ahead. And they're just walking the pace I'm walking at now. It's like, well, I'm glad they're out walking, but geez, they sound like they should have done that 20 years ago. They don't sound good at all. Maybe they're out walking because the doctor told them, you're going to get some exercise or you're going to die or something. So up here, we have what I have been noticing. As the leaves are turning, but a lot of the trees are like half empty. Last year, this tree was full, beautiful, and it didn't look that orange till about a week and a half from today's date, 2 weeks. So they're definitely turning early. And a lot of the leaves are falling out because of the drought. And I looked that up online, and they said the symptoms of a drought with fall foliage is that a lot of the leaves will just fall off because the tree is trying to conserve water. So And it will start turning colors early, so it sheds the leaves and hibernates till next year to try to preserve itself because it doesn't have enough water. And you can see a lot of these leaves are kind of crinkled, shrunk, depleted. They're drying out, folks. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is the Department of Justice yesterday or the day before has officially filed a lawsuit against the state of Maine because Shanna Bellows refused to turn over voter data and information because they don't want the Trump administration to find out who the illegals are that can vote, or people that aren't allowed to vote that can vote. And Shanna Bellows is delaying, hemming, hawing, refusing to cooperate. And I hope Trump fully defunds my state just to teach a lesson. That would hurt the state financially, but that's what you get with poor leadership. They think they can just blame Trump for it, when the simple fact is it's their fault. They didn't comply with federal law. So that's poor leadership locally. It's not a federal problem. It's got nothing to do with Trump. Sounds funny to say that, but that's the truth of it. We want fair elections. That's what we voted for. We voted for them to do what they're doing. So they're supposed to be pro-democracy. They should support that. They fight against it. So there you have that. Now up ahead here, my walk is going to come up a little bit short, but I'm still going to put the full distance of the walk. I'm not going to record the extra mile I'm going to walk because it's the same ground we've walked on already. So what I'll do is I'll end the walk up ahead, and so when I end the walk with you, I'll be somewhere around 4 miles, and I'm going to do an additional up ahead. That won't be on camera. So technically it'll be the shorter walk today, but I'm going to add about 12 or 13 minutes to the beginning because of my intro. So anyway, that's what I'm doing today. Go across the street. Absolutely beautiful today. Very thin, high cirrus clouds. Thin wispies. The other day it was blue, not a single damn cloud at all. So I just hit 4 miles. Ooh, that breeze feels good. Wind is blowing the acorns out of the oak tree. Big oak tree. The mighty oak. battery is gonna run out any minute. I should just change it now. Okay, well. All right. So sometimes I get comments about the music I play, and a lot of it is just generic. There's really no song credits other than the title. But the previous video had almost a gunslinger kind of song, Old West, and that was actually named Doc and Wyatt. And I believe the composer was Everett Webb, but it comes from the YouTube MP3 free license music library. There's hundreds and hundreds of free MP3s. If you have a YouTube account, you can download them, and they're for free to use in videos. A lot of them are very corny and generic sounding for like commercials, but they get some really cool different types of jingles. So that's where I get the music. It's available to anyone. It's nothing special. And maybe you can sit there for a couple hours and find some stuff you like and download them for free. So anyway, it's on YouTube Music, which you can find from your profile on YouTube. So we'll walk on up ahead, up by the pickleball court. I'll sign off with you. It's been an interesting conversation today, I think. I'm going to try to say stuff that needs to be said without saying bad things about the opposition with regard to insults and name calling. I will call them socialists. I will call them communists. But the only time I will say anything like somebody is actually the fascist or authoritarian is if I'm talking about something where they said that, and it's the topic of discussion, if that makes sense. Try to tone down the rhetoric. But like I've said on my walks, whether or not we have peace and civility with the left depends on the left. It depends on Democrats toning it down, and it depends on the media making a serious change about how they have been. I've seen a lot of programming, like on Netflix. There was a sci-fi movie with Jennifer Lopez, and there was a robot in there. And the robot introduced itself to her and then said, "My pronouns are her, she." So they threw in the pronouns. But that is free speech, and they have a right to do that in that movie. And it's up to people not to watch it, which people didn't. So there's been less of that, and that's just how, you know, the market is going to bear that. So the company that fired Jimmy Kimmel, ABC fired him, but it wasn't until Nexstar, who distributes these programs nationally, said we're no longer airing it. So if you want to pay to have that show made, we're not going to air it. ABC could have put it on their live stream that people pay a subscription for, but that's not enough revenue for them to pay for the amount of money that they have to pay Kimmel every year. He gets paid tens of millions of dollars every year. It's a big part of their budget, and people aren't watching. So, New York Post was reporting today that Kimmel has disappeared off the radar, and people that know him say that he is absolutely livid, very angry, very, very angry that he was fired. And a lot of these people have a sense of entitlement. They can do no wrong. And if you hold them accountable for something they said, you're the problem. So he's going to have to cope. He had free speech to say what he wanted, and he's suffering the consequences of that free speech. So I can run into a movie theater and yell fire if I want to. It's my free speech. But there are laws against doing that, and that was a debate that went on with the Supreme Court a while back. And the Supreme Court said the reason why it's not free speech is because you're putting other people's lives in danger. You can cause a panic, people can get killed, stomped to death, and that violates people's rights. So anyway, I'm not going to get into a big giant philosophical debate on that. But the point is, a company made a decision to release an employee because of what they were saying to the public, which damages the company. It's really that simple. It's not even really a free speech issue. Coupled with the fact that ratings are in the toilet and nobody's watching him because he talks like that. So we've seen a cultural swing in this country. The majority of the public voted for Donald Trump. Even after all the dictator, Nazi, fascist rhetoric, he's a racist, he's this, he's that, people voted for him. So these companies should have a clue that that's not where the country is right now. Stop doing it. And they're finally waking up to that because it's hurting their bottom end. Trump is more popular right now than he ever has been. So there it is. Anyways, my friends, say a prayer for Trump and the country. God bless you and your family. Stay out of trouble. Don't be violent. Be good to one another. And we will see you on the next walk. Have a safe trip today, my friends. God bless. Bye-bye. See you soon.